Okay guys, so we're gonna try and finish this Unit 3 review here. If you hear my kids in the basement, just try to ignore them. Try to tell them to be quiet. We'll see if that works. So blue group, yellow group, you guys got this completed. Blue group, we were almost done and then we had to go. So we talked about how that we start with what she earns for the entire month, and then we needed to subtract away all of her bills. So we add up all of those bills and then do our subtraction. So remember, when we are adding and subtracting with decimals, we do need to line them up. So when we do this 850, we need to make sure that we add our decimal places and the zeros so that we can then line up the other bills to go to add that up. So when we add that up, we just add like normal. So we get 7 plus 7, 14, carry our 1. 8 plus 5 is 13, plus 1 is 14, carry our 1. 9 plus 1 is 10, 10 plus 8, 18, carry our 1. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 7 is 22. So carry our 2. 8 and 2 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. And then remember when we do addition and subtraction, we just drop that decimal straight down into our answer. So that's the total that she spends on her bills. So now we do our subtraction and do the same thing, just line it up. So 1,978 and 37 cents minus $1,228.44. Now just do our subtraction. 7 minus 4 gives us 3. 3 minus 4, we can't do that, so we borrow. That becomes a 7. That becomes a 13. 13 minus 4 gives us 9. Then we have 7 minus 8. Can't do that, so we borrow from this 7. Becomes a 6, and that becomes a 17 minus 8, which gives us another 9. 6 minus 2 gives us 4. 9 minus 2 gives us 7. 1 minus 1 is nothing. Again, addition, subtraction, just drop that decimal straight down. So our answer of what she has left over is $749.93. Okay, let's flip it over. Look at number 4. Number 4 says, Bray Wyatt took his family to dinner. The total cost was $38.75. He gave the cashier $40. The cashier incorrectly gave him the change, or $2.35 in change. How much change should the Wyatt family have received? So what do we need to look at there? We need to look at what we gave the cashier and what our actual bill was, and we need to do subtraction there, right? We need to find the difference between what we gave and what the bill actually was. We're subtracting, so we do line our decimals up. 40 minus $38.75. Now we have our zeros, and we have other zeros that we cannot borrow from, so we have to jump all the way to that 4 to borrow from that. Becomes a 3. That's a 10 now. And we borrow from that, becomes a 9. This is a 10 now. We borrow from that. That's a 9. And now we have a 10 in our hundredths place, and we can subtract 10 minus 5. Gives me 5. 9 minus 7 gives me 2. 9 minus 8 gives me 1. With subtraction, just drop your decimal straight down. So we should have gotten $1.25 back, but they accidentally gave him $2.35 back. So we need to explain what mistake the cashier might have made. Someone raise your hand and tell the sub, what do you think? the cashier accidentally did wrong when they did that subtraction. And then whatever you guys say as your answer for that. They may have incorrectly counted up, thinking that the 8, if I count up 2, that'll give me 40. Or they could have borrowed incorrectly. So there's a couple things that you could write there to tell a mistake that they could have made. So take a second and write whichever explanation. You can say the cashier didn't borrow correctly. Or you could say the cashier thought about going from 8 up to the next 10. So that would make it a 2 here instead. Either one would be acceptable. All right, let's move on. Number 5. Use estimation to place the decimal in each answer. Explain or record each sentence, a number sentence, to show how you made your estimation. So we have 2 multiplication and 1 division problem, and we have numbers, but we don't have any decimal places in it. So we need to make a estimation to figure out where we think that decimal place should go. We can look at the decimal places in our factors, but sometimes that's not always the best, the correct answer, because if you're multiplying and you end up with a number that has a 0 in it, like if you had 2 times 5, you would have another 0. So that would change where your decimal place would end up. So think about, we have 4 and 67 hundredths times 9 and 14 hundredths. Give me an estimation. Someone raise your hand and tell the sub an estimation. What would you do? Remember, estimations need to be simple, need to be mental math. We would make it easy as possible for you. Probably the best estimation to go with there, to make it as easy as you can, would be 4.65 or 4.67 going up to 5 and 9.14 going down to 9, which would give you an estimation of 45. And then where does that tell me my decimal place will likely fall? If I put it anywhere else, I would end up with, 4,000 or just 4. So most likely my decimal should end up there, and it would become 42 and 6,838 10,000ths. So same thing on letter B. We have 33 and 78 hundredths times 204 and 5 hundredths. Give me an estimation. Raise your hand. Something easy that you can do in your head. Probably the easiest estimation would probably be 30 times 200, because I know easily that I can just multiply that and then add my 3 zeros on, which would give me 6,000 as my estimated answer, and that can tell me where my decimal place should go. So if I look, here's my 6. So if it's going to be around 6,000, that means my decimal probably needs to go there. And see, this is one of those problems where in our factors we have 3, but when we multiply the 8 and the 4, we really would have another 0 here. So this would give us 3 that way. So that's why we use estimation also in this situation. So then you would end up with 6,908 and 1,000th. And then we have division, 2,321 and 2/10 divided by 56 hundredths. So remember, this is our dividend and this is our divisor. What's an estimation that would make this easy to figure out where the decimal would go? Someone raise your hand. There's probably a couple ways you could do it. For me, I would say probably the easiest mental math would be to do 2,000 divided by your 0.5, so a half. So you'd be cutting that, or cutting your 2,000 in half, which would give me 4,000 as my estimation. Because if you think about every one of these in this 2,000, you're cutting into 2 pieces. So you're doubling it by dividing it by half. So if that's my estimation, then I can see, okay, here's my numbers. I have 414500. So most likely my decimal is going to go right here, which would give me 4,145. All right, number 6. Emmeline buys a bunch of bananas for her weekly snacks. Bananas cost $1.99 per pound. The bunch of bananas that she buys weighs 3.6 pounds. How much will Emmeline pay for her bunch of bananas before tax? Show your work. So, what's the operation? Someone raise your hand to tell. What is the operation here? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? We should be multiplying because this says per pound and we got more than 1 pound. So we need to figure out if we have 3.6, how many pounds or how much money will that be if we get that many pounds? So when we multiply with decimals, do we have to line up the decimals? I hope everyone said no. We just write it down as if the decimals were not there, and then add the decimals into our answer. So always start with the one with the most digits on the top. It's a little less confusing that way. So $1.99 times our 3.6. Now let's work that out. So we do, starting with our 6. 6 times 9, 54, carry our 5. 6 times 9 again, so another 54, plus 5, 59, carry our 5. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 more, gives us 11. Now I'm done with that 6. So who can tell? Real quick, raise your hand. What do I do next? Add in a 0 under the 4 to take the place of that 6. We're done with that 6. So we add our 0 to hold the place. And then I'm going to erase the carrying that I did on the first multiplying so I don't get confused. Now I'm ready to multiply with my 3. So 3 times 9, 27, carry the 2. 3 times 9 again, 27, plus 2, 29. Carry the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. Now we're ready to add that up. So we get 4 plus 0 is 4, 9 plus 7, 16. Carry my 1. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Carry my 1. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Now remember, in multiplication, we count up how many decimal places we have in our factors, and that's how many we need in our answer. So we have 2 in this factor and 1 in that factor. So our answer needs 3. So we start over on the very far right and go 1, 2, 3. Insert our decimal. Now we're talking about money here. So when we have money, do we leave a thousandth there? Do we talk about money past the hundredths place? We do not usually do that. So the 4 tells me I should round that down. So that my answer will then be $7.16 is her total.